Hello, and welcome to this 10-minute teardown from Wax Digital. In this session, we'll be looking at Web3 Capture, your secret weapon for achieving 100% electronic invoicing. My name is Carl Thompson, and I'm a Senior Solutions Consultant here at Wax Digital. So why are invoices such a problem? Apart from paying them, of course. There are a number of compound issues. Firstly, there is no standard format, no internationally recognized format that every supplier has to subscribe to. So suppliers can basically supply their own formats, their own layouts, and their own set of data. This indeed causes challenges for the recipient of those invoices when they have to handle those various different formats. Suppliers also have their own very different methods for sending. Suppliers can also miss information or get information on those invoices wrong, causing AP additional stress and additional issues in looking for that particular piece of information. Quite often they miss a key piece of information out from the invoice, for example no purchase order number being quoted. Or worse, no PO being created in the first place that actually then can be resolved against that particular purchase invoice. That causes delays in validation, causes payment issues and payment delays, and that breaks down further the relationship with that particular supplier when you're paying them late. But your suppliers have multiple ways to actually send invoices through. Here we can see on the left 4 of the key ways that might happen. Going from top to bottom, we've got EDI, Electronic Document Interchange. This is a file transfer between 2 computers. It's been around a while, but your systems may be set up particularly that way if your supplier is already sending you many thousands of invoices, for example. Processing this way and setting it up initially can be quite expensive, and it's quite technical, but it does allow for the direct transfer of information between your vendors and your buyer. We also have Web Portal. Web Portal is a method where suppliers can log in and typically transact directly, either from an order information or, not as necessary, but they can also key in information about an invoice into a web page, which then gets transmitted electronically. The third one down, we have Email PDF. Email PDF is probably the most common way that most clients receive invoices from their suppliers. And those emails themselves can cover a number of different formats. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then of course at the bottom, last but not least, we have traditional paper. Paper can arrive via the post, it can arrive into a bureau area, it could be scanned, and there's lots of different ways that you actually need to then transpose that information from that paper invoice into your financial systems for payment. And of course, all of these are ways that your suppliers may be already interacting with you. And as you can see, the gentleman on the right is stressed with the volume and the diversity of transactions that he's got. But Wax Digital has a solution that can handle all of those. Using the Web3 Capture solution and Connect tool, we can actually collate all the information from the various sources into one standard format. And then we can pass that through into Web3 for automatic invoice processing. And ultimately, send fully coded, fully approved invoices out to one of many different finance systems. Just a few of the examples are showing there on the right hand side. For the purposes of this demonstration, however, we'll be talking about Web3 Capture, and in particular, looking at how an email PDF can be sent or how paper can be handled. So let's think a little bit about PDF invoices first, the sort that you might receive via email. Well, there are actually 2 types of PDF invoice. The one on the top is obviously one that has started life maybe as paper, or maybe somebody's printed it out from a system and then written on it. In effect, it's no better than paper. You still need to run some kind of OCR, that's optical character recognition, on that in order to get the data off. And it may need some additional training in order for the automated feed of those to come through in the future. The second type, down at the bottom, are computer generated from an accounts receivable system. you can see that the image on the bottom is cleaner and sharper, and this is because it's been generated directly from the supplier's own IT system. Data itself is embedded into the PDF file, and the PDF can be automatically read and the information extracted without any need to OCR. It's 100% accurate, that's source accurate, because the supplier might get something wrong. But we know about it straight away if they do, because that information is exactly as it came out of the accounts receivable system from the supplier. And the added benefit of all this is that line information can be read. So we can take all the lines of an invoice and then match them individually against lines from an order. And as long as the supplier has quoted an order number on each line, the supplier could then send effectively a consolidated invoice, and the system would match all of it, regardless of how many different order numbers were quoted. The Web3 Capture tool provides a full data extraction service for those invoices. And as you can see here, an example we have shown is where the system is capturing things like invoice number, PO number, date, amounts, tax, net, and obviously gross amounts, but also the line information with quantities and prices. So how does a data PDF help automation? So if we have a data PDF, as you've just seen from the image previously, we can actually pull out the data automatically and pass it straight through into the matching engine without any need for intervention from AP. Obviously, there's a risk that they may have to look at that if it's some kind of image-based problem around the data, and then we may need to correct that in some way. So for image-based PDFs, as an example at the bottom of the screen, we can use a combination of OCR, artificial intelligence, and some knowledge-based data extraction. This will help us to get the best chance of getting the information off the invoice, but there's always some risk of validation and correction being required before that invoice then becomes an invoice that can be sent for automatic matching. So how does it work? Well, let's take a look here on my desktop. You can see an example of the typical invoice that a supplier might send out for processing. It's just a PDF file. So if I open that up, we can see here this is from Supplier Viking. Now I know this is a data file. You can check this by being able to mark areas of text inside the document for copying and pasting purposes. If I can do that, then I know that this is a data PDF. And in that case, the system will allow me to extract all of the information, including line information, quantities, prices, tax, gross, net, invoice number, and PO number as well. And that will allow me to automatically flush this through the system, match it against goods receipts, match it against orders. So all the supplier needs to do is do exactly what they've been doing already. In this case, send it via email. So I'm going to do that right now. So if I select that I want to send this to a mail recipient, this is exactly what your supplier would be doing. In a moment, that's going to pop up a dialog box for me, and I'm actually going to send it into our e-invoicing email address service. Now this could be your accounts payable receipting email address. That's fine. We can intercept all inbound PDF files, data PDFs, image PDFs, and handle them accordingly. So the supplier only just needs to do exactly what they're doing right now. Click send, and it's gone. It's on its way. It will be processed. So once the email has been sent with the PDF attached, the system will then extract all the information from it and send it through into Web3 for processing. So let's take a look inside Web3 to see what that would look like once it's arrived. It takes around 5 to 10 minutes to fully complete the transaction. Now as accounts payable, you'd be wanting to look in the Manage Documents queue. So let's take a look. And here I've set a filter looking for our specific invoice reference and our supplier name. And we can see that the system has found this invoice has now been fully processed. And indeed, it's already ready for payment. So therefore we know that no intervention has been required from accounts payable. The invoice has been successfully read, matched against a goods receipt, matched against the order information, and now it's ready to be sent out to finance systems for processing and payment. Now, how would that actually work if we had to process an image-based invoice via the email function, or indeed we'd scanned a document ourselves using a scanner from a piece of paper? The system that we're about to see is the Web3 Capture solution. This is the portal front end that allows us to monitor inbound transactions and their current status. I'm just going to very quickly show you what happens when we force an image-based PDF through the system and see how it extracts the data. So I'm going to create a batch using the solution, and here I have on my desktop another PDF, this time an image-based PDF, and it's listed here for me. Now this could be multiple files. It doesn't really matter how many you have in a batch. Typically around 50 is the theoretical maximum. Now I can add some details here about this particular batch, but I'm just going to click submit so that can go off on its way for processing. Now the next step, once that's been sent off for processing, is it will be identified. It will determine whether it's an invoice, a credit note, what type of information needs to be extracted, and then we'll have a data verification step. Now normally this point is automatic, so let's take a look at that batch, the single document that we just submitted. So here you can see the invoice that's just been processed by the solution, and on the right hand side is the invoice image itself. You'll notice that each of the areas of text that are of relevance have been highlighted with a box, and that has actually resulted in that information being captured as part of the solution. So at the top of the screen we've got all of the header information like the supplier name, the tax totals, net totals and gross totals, also PO numbers, invoice numbers, but also down at the bottom we've got line information. Each of the 4 lines in this case has been extracted along with its quantity, unit price and line value. There's nothing wrong with this invoice. It's captured everything that it's expecting to capture automatically, and therefore we've got the green tick. Now normally that would have been automatically then submitted off into Web3 for processing, the same as the email a data PDF that you just saw in the previous example. And that concludes this 10-minute teardown on how Wax has a Web3 capture solution enabling all businesses to move to 100% e-invoicing. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you need more information or want a more detailed demonstration, then please contact us at one of the methods shown on screen.